Hey everyone, so in this video we are going to learn about one-dimensional array. So in our earlier videos we have gone through the array introduction. So we are repeating the array definition here. So array is an index collection of same type of elements. So if it is an integer array, so we have to store only the integer values to that array, and if it is a string array, so we should store the string values to the array. So if you are trying to store some other data type values, so in that case we'll get a compilation error. So let's try to understand how to declare a one-dimensional array and how to initialize it. Okay, so you can declare an array in this way. The type of the array you can provide, and if it can be primitive or user defined type. Okay, and this is the syntax. So you can declare, so this square bracket you can place it after the variable or before the variable or after the type, but not before the type. You get a compilation error. Okay, this is how you can declare array variable, and along with the declaration you can also initialize an array. So this is how you can initialize this array. I'm storing some randomly some values, some integer values. Okay, this is how you can declare and initialize an array. Okay, and how to read this array. Array can be read using a loop. So it can be any loop, while, for loop, do while, or for each loop. So I'm reading this array using the for loop. Okay, so what is the size of this array? If you see here, the size of the array is 5, 1 2 3 4 5, and each element will be stored in the continuous memory location, and that's the reason it will be having index. So if you see the index 0, at the index 0 element 2 is there, and at 1 we have 3, at 2 4, so on till index 4 we have 6. Okay, so the size of the array is 5. Okay, so I want to iterate this loop 5 times, and each time I want to increment the I value, and I'll just print this array element at each iteration. So I'm just saying a of I. So I'm passing the I variable here, so that at each iteration it will print the array variable value. Okay, so let's run this program and see what is the output. Yes, 2 3 4 5 6. So it is printing the entire array. This is how you can read the array. Okay, also we can create the array. So we don't want to initialize the array at each time, right? So sometimes we just want to create array. So array can be created using new operator, and this is the syntax. So at the time of creation we should provide the size. Okay, so I'm providing the size of this array is 5, but we don't, so we are not declaring, we just declared the integer or the clear we are creating the integer array, but there are no values stored in this array, right? By default all the from 0th index to 4th index, by default the value 0 will be stored, but we want to store user defined value, right? So that for that case what we'll do, let's try to store some values. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just copy this, and at each index I will just assign some value at each index. Okay, so we have 5 elements. So at index 0 1 2 3 4, so we have 5 elements. I'm just storing some value randomly. Okay, and let's try to run this program now and see what is out. Yeah, so this is how the you can create array, and also you can initialize the array. So we can create array using the new operator, and during the creation we should provide the size, and the size is always should be in integer type. So what will happen, like if you don't declare the size, you will get a compilation error. Okay, variable must provide either dimension expression in or array initializer. So we should definitely declare the size, but the size should be of integer type. Suppose you are providing some long some other type, say suppose long value as the size of this array, you will get a compilation error. So it will always allow integer type, also the character type. Okay, so the ASCII value of this character will be passed as a size of this array. Okay, so that's how you will declare the size of the array. So if you see this point, so we can create an array using the keyword, but we should provide size during the creation, otherwise we'll get compilation. This we have already covered, and yeah, and we also covered this point. So what all the allowed data types for declaring the size of the array? So those are byte, short, int, and character. So these three are integer type, and this is the character type. So the next one, we'll see two famous exception that you will see in case of arrays. One is the negative array exception, the other one is the array index out of the bound exception. Okay, so this is a short form. So we'll see one by one. Okay, so let's see what is negative array exception. Okay, so if I provide the negative integer value as the size of the array, so what will happen? Compilation time you won't see an error, but if you run the program, you will see an exception, negative array size exception. So this is because you have provided the negative integer value during the the array creation. Okay, and this is the negative array exception. And what is the array index out of the bound exception? So you have provided the array size as 5, but yeah, we already stored 5 element. But what happens in case if we go beyond this size? Suppose at the index 5 doesn't exist in the memory, but still we are assigning some value. Okay, compilation time you won't see an error, but what will happen when you run this program? You will see an exception, array index out of bound exception. Okay, so this is a very important question. Sometimes the interviewer may ask what is an array index out of bounds exception, and can you just write a piece of code which will depict this scenario, right? Yeah, so these two are covered. Yeah, and even this one. So let's try to understand what is the length variable. Okay, so length is a final variable, and when we can use that? So I have created an array of size 5, and here if you see I have hard coded the value, which is nothing but like this many times I want to iterate this array because the size of the array is 5. So instead of this, we can hard code value, we can directly say a dot length, and which will give us the length of the array. And if you run this, yeah, this should execute fine. Yeah, because we haven't initialized any value for this array, integer array. That's the reason internally it is storing 0, 0, 0. Okay, so as a programmer we should provide some values at each index. 0, index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we have covered everything about the one-dimensional array. So let's meet with the new topic in the next video. Thank you so much.